Hello, and welcome to the Paranormal Operator Podcast, where we talk about all manner of things that go bump in the night. Here, we will be discussing sightings, investigations, news, and popular media surrounding the paranormal, supernatural, and occult phenomena. So settle in as we search for the truth. I am your host, Adam, Operator 23. In today's episode, our major topics will be the recent Senate UAP hearing, where you might want to live for Bigfoot sightings, and a shadowy apparition caught on film in the attic of a Civil War era inn. First, to the Senate. Wednesday, April 19th, the Subcommittee on Emerging Threats and Capabilities of the Senate Armed Services Committee held a closed and an open hearing on UAPs. The quote-unquote witness was Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who is head of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO. Before we get into the hearing itself, let's take a pulse on what the media was saying in the lead-up. There have been several articles centering on Dr. Kirkpatrick's co-authoring of a to-be-reviewed academic paper. Two such articles were Pentagon Officials, Alien Mothership Theory Sparks Debate on Unexplained Sightings, and that's coming from Curiosmos.com. The other, Alien Spacecraft in the Vicinity of Solar System? New paper says extraterrestrials using dandelion seeds. And that one coming from the International Business Times. Little outrageous, little salacious maybe for their headlines, but they gotta get clicks somehow, I guess. Having read the paper, it suggests how a species similar to ours, similar in technological capability, might use probes to explore possible life-bearing worlds. One of these suggestions is that probes, which in their paper have a large statistical probability of existing, could be brought in by an unmanned mothership and jettisoned with the mothership continuing on its way. The main focus here was Oumuamua, and a meteor that crashed in the sea off the coast of Papua New Guinea. For those of you that don't remember, Oumuamua was an interstellar object from outside of our solar system that came through, caused a big ruckus because it was oddly shaped, it had a very odd trajectory, and people at Harvard were saying this could be extraterrestrial. Well, the other co-author to this is that guy from Harvard. Now, both Oumuamua and the meteor which did impact Earth, both of these objects shared similar characteristics, which caused some to believe that they were in fact artificial. Harvard's Galileo project will hopefully discover some truth as it plans to mount an expedition and retrieve what is left of the object. The Hill put out an article entitled 10 Key Questions for This Week's Historic UFO Hearing. The questions do have merit, so we will review these questions and attempt to answer them given the testimony from the hearing. The questions are, number 1, of the 500 plus UAP reports by service members in recent years, how many describe, quote, remarkable flight characteristics? Does AARO have high confidence that any UAP exhibited highly advanced technology? This question is somewhat answered in that if you're familiar with UFO research, or really any kind of cryptid or paranormal research, you know that 99% of the stuff out there is explainable. But it's that 1% that is truly anomalous, and that's something that Kirkpatrick brings up. Number 2. Are the objects in the now famous gimbal, go fast, and FLIR 1 UAP videos still unidentified? If so, what are Arrow's working theories for them? This is actually not brought up. They do not talk about any of the previous UAP videos. However, they do bring up two videos, one of which is making the rounds on the social media websites, and it basically shows a FLIR on a Predator drone, what they call it, MQ-9, I believe. And it's just this ball, it's a sphere that comes into frame and then looks like it takes a straight trajectory. It's fairly odd to watch. But these historical ones, the ones that most people are already familiar with, they were not brought up at all. Number 3. Rigorous, verifiable public analyses of the Navy videos confirm fighter pilot accounts that the objects exhibited highly advanced technology. Is Arrow aware of these open source assessments? My sense, and I'll demonstrate this, why I feel this way in a moment, is that Kirkpatrick would rather not involve the public at all. At least maybe not outside of his little circle. Number 4. Has Arrow characterized the UAP observed, often via multiple sensors, by dozens of naval aviators off the U.S. East Coast in recent years? If not, what is Arrow's working hypothesis for these highly anomalous encounters? So this question is not answered, even though one of the senators reminds everyone on the record that the Navy has acknowledged 11 near misses between military aircraft and UAPs. You would think that air traffic safety, airspace safety would be of paramount importance and that they would bring it up, but his answer isn't really to the point of this question. Number 5. In a striking development, Arrow director Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick recently co-authored a scientific paper theorizing that extraterrestrial probes may be drawn to water on Earth's surface. To what extent did recent UAP's encounters, the most compelling of which occurred over water, inform this groundbreaking paper? So the paper was never brought up at all, which is kind of strange, because I would definitely be like, hey, so what about this mothership thing? Right? It's kind of odd. And in fact, they also did not bring up any public or private university. And as I said before, the guy who's the other co-author, he works for Harvard. And I'm pretty sure that throughout the whole thing, the word extraterrestrial is mentioned maybe twice. It's very matter-of-fact, down-to-earth, kind of no aliens here. Number 6. Do you agree with former Director of National Intelligence, or John Ratcliffe's statement that UAPs possess, quote, technologies that the United States does not have, and frankly, that we are not capable of defending against, end quote? This was a statement made in 2021. Why or why not? Well, part of Arrow's job, especially if the UAP displays signatures of advanced technical capabilities, is to determine if it is of a foreign nexus. There is a single-digit percentage that are of concern, as they may be of a foreign nexus. There is no evidence of ISR or weaponization of UAP, but there are concerning indicators. So there's a bit to unpack there. First of all, these things flying around, do we think they're from other countries? Maybe, maybe not. He's not really clear. As far as the ISR and weaponization, ISR stands for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. There's no evidence of that, which to me sounds ridiculous. If I'm going to put something up over your airspace illegally, I'm most definitely going to be trying to gather intelligence. I'm going to be surveilling. I'm going to be reconnoitering. Like, that's kind of the point of being there in the first place. Alright, number 7. Last week, Space Force Major General John Olson stated that UAP encounters have, quote, occurred globally. Could you provide additional context? The only admittance that the outside world even existed beyond China and Russia was a map displaying hotspots of data, and that they needed to keep an eye on what others were doing with technology and what future technologies might look like. Beyond that, no other countries were brought up. Number 8. Many of AARO's 500-plus cases involve detections by multiple sensors, including satellite or other space-based systems. So for this, there was no discussion of sources or methods. But he does bring up that they have quite a lack of data and that it is a huge problem. And I can, as a person who's investigated UFO reports, I can kind of sympathize because you want as much data as possible. Number 9. How many UAP-related videos and images are in AARO's possession? So we don't know the individual numbers for videos and images. What we do know is that currently they are tracking 650 cases, and about half of them are of, quote, anomalous interesting value. About 20 to 30 are halfway through the resolution process, and a handful have been fully resolved. Number 10. The U.S. government has a long history of triumphantly highlighting, quote, resolved UAP reports while ignoring, downplaying, or force-fitting scientifically absurd explanations into compelling UAP cases. Recent press reports suggest that this may be occurring again. What steps will AARO take to prevent this? None. I am almost positive of that. These questions are really good, and I wish some of the senators would have asked these. The only question that kind of brings up number 10 was a question asking, how is AARO not going to be duplicating what other branches are already doing? So, money. They want to make sure they're not wasting money. Now, believe it or not, I actually tweeted a reply to Senator Gillibrand, who is the head of that subcommittee, as well as AARO. And I tweeted, my reply tweet was something very similar to that, because in my estimation, the government right now is at least 0-6 with projects Sign, Grudge, and Blue Book. You also have OSWAP, ATIP, and the UAP task force. And what do we have to show for it except for a bill? So, unfortunately, I feel like we're only going to be stuck with another bill. Other points of interest. Gillibrand references the lack of funding in spite of Congress providing ample funds, and I believe that was probably a dig at Trump. They have more than 36 experts working in 4 operational areas, including operations, scientific research, integrated analysis, and strategic communications. Beyond current cases, AARO is also reviewing and researching the U.S. government's UAP historical record, though I do not have much hope for any new revelations. It would be kind of cool if they came out and said that Roswell was a crash, though. DoD areas and personnel are going to be prioritized first, which kind of makes sense. That's who's reporting most of it. UAP, once resolved, may still be of national security interest. AARO's mission, as Kirkpatrick puts it, is to turn UAP into SEP, or someone else's problem. Which I kind of get. You want to take that 99% and throw it to the side after you've said, okay, this is junk, and really focus on that 1%. At the same time, though, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Now, thus far, there is no evidence of extraterrestrial activity, off-world technology, or objects that defy the laws of physics that is coming straight from the hearing. I feel like there are objects that we have seen that seem to defy the laws of physics. I mean, the paper the guy co-authored even stated that objects moving at a certain speed would be a fireball. And yet, we see some of these objects that are reportedly moving at these speeds, and they have no propulsion. They're not a fireball. And if you're wondering a fireball, it's because of the literal friction of the air from going that fast. So, I don't know where they get that from. Now, Congress mandated that AARO have a discoverable and accessible electronic method for witnesses and participants in government UAP activities to contact them. Additionally, Congress also set up a method where people under non-disclosure agreements can report their UAP activities without any kind of legal penalty, which is great. But I'm not sure this is being taken advantage of. The AARO website has not been published. In fact, they said that they had submitted it before Christmas of last year and have not heard back. And so far as I can find, the most public outlet that it has is a Twitter page that contains 2 tweets from last year. In all, I feel now, as I did before the hearing, it was pro forma. The worst parts about it were the lack of public participation from our senators, the constant association with China and Russia in an apparent effort to detach UAP from a possible greater non-terrestrial threat, and the fact that nothing seems likely to change. Kirkpatrick outlined these problems that any investigatory group faces. And it's like, y'all have the full backing of the U.S. government. I don't want to hear your sob story. Get to work. Now, I'm currently working on a publicly available website and paranormal activity reporting forum for anyone interested. I kind of feel like mine will probably go up before theirs. And it's not going to cost the taxpayers a dime. On a Twitter post from Are We Alone, dated April 19th, they described several actual witnesses that had come to D.C. to hand over evidence, and, quote, Kirkpatrick's disinterest was palatable, end quote. Continuing the thread, quote, Kirkpatrick fled the room the first chance he had, refused to engage, kept referring people to Gillibrand's staffer, end quote. Additionally, there does seem to have been a greater attendance for the classified half of the hearing, because for the one that I saw, there might have been a dozen people in the room. Like, 2 senators were there the whole time. A third one came and went. But one might wonder, if their senator was on this subcommittee, why would they not want to be seen by their constituents, doing their job? I guess they got something better to do. At any rate, you can check out Are We Alone on Twitter at Are We Alone POD. Furthermore, That UFO Podcast held another poll the day of the hearing. 49.4%, including myself, felt it went as expected. 42.5% were less than expected, and 8.1% were more than expected. Oh, those sweet summer children. More than expected. If only. On Friday, after the hearing, many intelligence agency heads and Congress members gathered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base for a briefing. The contents is mostly unknown, other than they did talk about the Chinese balloon and leaked classified information. That is a crying shame, given the UFO history of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. In other UFO news, you may remember the Chinese balloon that was shot down by our Air Force, but do you remember the other UAPs that were also shot down? This coming from comicbook.com, February 18th. In early February, 4 separate UAPs were in our airspace. 4. And only one was confirmed to be a balloon. The search for 2 of these objects were in remote areas of Alaska and Lake Huron, and they have both been called off. So the debris is lost. The 4th object was shot down over Canadian airspace. So their government, their problem. They're going to be looking for it. Now, granted, these objects were, according to the Biden administration, balloons. But they labeled them as UAPs. So maybe they were, maybe they weren't. They probably were. I don't think we could shoot down a UFO if we wanted to. While we cannot seem to find them down here, though, that doesn't stop other people from looking elsewhere. A story from Mirror, dated April 18th as well, is entitled UFO Spotter Discovers Crashed Alien Spaceship on Mars in footage released by NASA. The photo in question does appear to show a half-dome-shaped object that is a different color than the surroundings. It is intriguing, to say the least. Now, being Mars, it has oxidized iron, so rust, in the rocks and in the dirt. That's why it's red. This object is not red. It is a darker hue, and even though it is out of focus, it does seem fairly spherical as well as smooth, as opposed to some of the other objects in the foreground, which you can clearly see are not smooth at all and are irregularly shaped. Lastly, this past Tuesday, Season 4 of Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch premiered. Now, having watched the previous seasons, I was very excited to hear that there was going to be a 4th season, and I was ecstatic knowing that it was only a few weeks away when I discovered it, and now it's here. And so every Tuesday, they're going to be premiering another episode. In this episode, episode 1 of Season 4, the team takes to the skies to runs into some unexpected aerial phenomena while collecting LiDAR data from the helicopter. You can watch for free at play.history.com. As far as the natural phenomena in our skies, skyweather.com reports there was a coronal mass ejection detected April 21. The Air Force reported strong Type 2 and Type 4 solar radio bursts, which are natural shortwave emissions. The coronal mass ejection's velocity is suggested to be around 580 kilometers per second and should strike the Earth somewhere between midnight and noon Monday morning Universal Time. It is expected to generate minor to moderate geomagnetic storms. Lastly, from the American Meteor Society, tonight, the Lyrids meteor shower is going to peak at about 18 objects per hour. These will be small objects without a train, but some may produce fireballs. And that will be in the northern hemisphere. Now on to cryptids. According to bestlifeonline.com, there are 5 states where you are most likely to see a Bigfoot. And those states are: at number 5, Wyoming. Number 4, Idaho. Number 3, West Virginia. Number 2, Oregon. And number 1, Washington State. This ranking was calculated by comparing the number of sightings from the BFRO, that's the Bigfoot Field Research Organization, database, and the populations of human, deer, and elk. Additionally, there were correlations found between black bear populations and Bigfoot sightings. Now, does that mean people are seeing Bigfoot or seeing black bear and saying, oh, it's a Bigfoot? Maybe. Or it simply could be that there are 2 big predators, omnivores, that eat the same food. Now, with the approach of summer, many of you will be going out into the woods to recreate or possibly to investigate. But whatever you do out there, make sure you go prepared. As Can-Am Missing Project founder David Paulides reminds us, having been a park ranger and worked search and rescue myself, I can agree with his suggestions. Here are a few things you need to keep in mind when venturing out into the great outdoors. Always tell someone where you're going and when to expect you back. That way, if you don't show up, then they could send the cavalry. It's a good idea to wear bright colors. Fluorescent orange is going to stand out a lot better than earth tones, especially if you're in the woods trying to be spotted from the air. And it's also a good idea to keep several signaling devices, such as a chem light or chem stick, whistle, and a signaling mirror. So chem lights or chem sticks, glow sticks, they can be used for light, but they can also be used to signal rescuers. Most of them come with a string, and you tie the string on the end, you light it up, and then you spin it around, and it can be visible for quite a long distance. Whistles are magnificent signaling devices because they can be heard over long distances, and they take a lot less energy than yelling. You yelling, you're going to be hoarse in a pretty short amount of time, especially since most people, they don't know how to yell. Mirrors can be used to signal aircraft as they can reflect the sun and are visible for miles. Speaking of light, CBS 21 local news in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, covered a story of an apparition blocking light from an attic window. The video was filmed from the exterior of the Farnsworth House Inn in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The structure is a Civil War era hotel, well, it's an inn, which has a very haunted past. I reached out to the inn for comment, and they did not disappoint. Quote, when not in use, the attic at the Farnsworth house remains locked with a combination lock. At the time of this video, there was no tour happening, but one was scheduled to happen later that night, hence the light. After one of our storytellers preps the attic for their respective tour, they lock it behind them so that no one can wander in and then head back downstairs to work the ground to get spontaneous additions to their tour from people passing by. The light seen in the video is an overhead light that we use during the tours or when housekeeping is upstairs to clean. Housekeeping hours are from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. This was at night. Further, the window shown in the video is only an inch or two off of the floor of the attic. I bring this up because we notice that if you slow the footage down and scrub through it frame by frame, it appears to be the silhouette of a person violently rocking or whipping their upper body back and forth. this would be physically impossible in this space. The attic housed Confederate sharpshooters, all of whom lost their lives at the Battle of Gettysburg. Activity is not unusual in our attic, and it's been the general consensus of staff that have viewed the video that it would likely be one of those men who lost their lives in there. However, this is also the first time that this specific type of activity has been seen here, so there's still a little uncertainty about what it is. End quote. That's a heck of a thing. You can find the footage pretty easily on the internet if you look up CBS 21 Gettysburg Farnsworth House Inn. They are an inn that you can stay at as well as take ghost tours. It's a pretty interesting place. Definitely have to hit it up if I'm ever in Gettysburg. Now, our last segment, upcoming events. This past Monday, April 18th, was acclaimed journalist and Coast to Coast AM host George Knapp's birthday. Born in 1953, he is 70 years young, and we wish him a happy belated birthday and many, many more years to come, sir. Saturday, May 6th, is the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival in Townsend, Tennessee, at the Townsend Visitor Center. The Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival is an exciting and unique event that celebrates the legend of Bigfoot and the natural beauty of the Great Smoky Mountains. Activities will include live music, arts and crafts, food vendors, expert speakers, and a Bigfoot calling contest. For the kids, there will be face painting, bouncy houses, and a scavenger hunt. Tickets are $10 to $25 and can be purchased through eventbrite.com. Friday and Saturday, May 19th and 20th. Don't miss the 3rd annual WNC Bigfoot Festival that celebrates the legendary creature. It covers several blocks of Main Street in downtown Marion, North Carolina, located just about 36 miles east of Asheville. In addition to Sasquatch-themed items, you can find a variety of local crafts and food vendors. This year, they will be adding an indoor expo on Friday. The Big Street Festival will happen Saturday. You can learn more at romanticasheville.com/Bigfoot-festival. Please do check the website. Parking is limited, and they will have shuttle information on the website. And lastly, Sunday, May 21st, set in beautiful Coshocton, Ohio, the 3rd Sasquatch Triangle Conference. It is exciting to continue to educate and entertain in Sasquatch research. Unfortunately, that's all I have to say about it because they don't have much on a website. You can find them, however, on eventbrite.com. Tickets are available for $35, and they do have a handful of speakers, including Doug Waller, Amy Boo, Thomas Shea, and Charlie Raymond. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed listening to what we had to offer this time. We changed our flow up a little bit, and I hope the audio is a lot better. But anyway, that's all for this week, folks. If you like what you heard, please like, share, subscribe, comment. It all helps the algorithm. You can find us on Twitter at ParanormalOps23 and Instagram at ParanormalOperator23. And those are both the numbers, 23. Our email, if you have any sightings or experiences you want to report, is paranormaloperator23@gmail.com. Until next time, keep searching in the darkness.